I have 12:01, and it's Monday, the 25th of October, and this is a meeting of the Public Safety Committee for the Assembly. We'll start by just quickly introducing ourselves around the room.
Heather Ireland, I'm Paul's assistant.
Mike Carey, Assembly.
Paul Holman, Assembly Chair.
Kathleen Plunkett, School Board.
Mark Mew, Police Department.
Carol Como, Anchorage School District.
Gardner Cobb, Anchorage School District. And Kevin Spiller's Office of Emergency Management.
And thank you for attending. I think I just noticed Ms. Gray Jackson should be joining us in just a moment. So I know she tries to, though she's not an official member of the committee, she tries to get to this one. She says she's hardly ever missed one. So that account, we will just start proceeding because I know I don't want to keep people any longer than we can. We would. Just for the record, November 10th is the next scheduled Public Safety Committee meeting, although I will be out of town, so we may push that after the Thanksgiving holiday or maybe the week of the Thanksgiving holiday, unless there's any reasons like it. Somebody's also going to have a so
You'll let us know.
Keep that in mind. I'll let you know in case somebody else has to leave or anything scheduled. One of the purposes, two actually real concern issues that have come up. One is an issue on Spike K2 or Salvia. Another one is in regard to resolution that should be coming before the Assembly tomorrow night. Actually two, one for that particular subject, and I'll let Mr. Gutierrez address that. The other is in dealing with the budget and as it pertains to school resource officers being addressed at the school districts, the Assembly's guidance and resolution to the school district in preparation for their budget. And then the last thing, I think, if you don't mind, Chief, if you think you're prepared to maybe address the Title IX meeting recently, particularly pertaining to bicycles, if it's okay to address some of that. And I know that you and I haven't had a chance to talk offline on Spike, but if there's anything you can share with us, it'd be great. If not, we can discuss it later. Then I didn't see Chief Hall, but hopefully he can join us on Station 6 update. And apparently there's some issues with Station 3 on their rebuild as well, so I'd like to perhaps delve in a little on that. Mr. Spillers, I didn't have you on here. I know you just gave a presentation to the Assembly, but I certainly would love for you to share anything that's coming up. So with that, if you don't mind, let's, I'm just going to, I know it's listed as second, but if you don't mind, change the order today. Spice K2. Mr. Gutierrez, is there something you can share with us on that?
Just, I'm sure that you all saw the media coverage last week, and Mr. Holman and I have put together a resolution. We publicly called on, and I should mention that it was at Kathleen's suggestion, it was a good idea, to publicly call on retailers in Anchorage to stop selling this stuff, pending legislation at the state level and an ordinance at the municipal level. I don't have any evidence one way or the other. I haven't had a chance to get out and talk to people and see what's happening with that as to whether or not people are doing that. But we have a resolution to put before the Assembly tomorrow to express the sense of the entire body of the same thing. Just, we understand that people probably didn't know how bad this stuff is and what people were doing to abuse it when it was marketed to them. If they had, this is their community too. My guess is 99.99% of them wouldn't have done it. So that's where we are with that. I don't know if, if the district want to talk about how much you've seen this stuff in the schools. I know that it's something that you've prohibited, but what's your sense of how deeply this problem runs?
Well, I don't have specific statistics, but when actually it was a school board member, Jeannie Mackey, heard about it from a friend of hers whose son had taken it and had a horrible physical reaction to it. She brought it up and we didn't know anything about it, so we talked to Gardner and he worked with our communications office to develop a fact sheet. I don't know if you've seen it, we can certainly get it to you. It's in a PDF form and it really talks about Spiced K2 and what it is, what it can do. And we sent it out to all the principals, asked them to put it in their school newsletters, and to the school nurses. They've had presentations from the police department. We're going to have the nurses get a presentation from the police department so that we really kind of escalated the information. And we sent over to Sarah Erkman a copy of the flyer, and I don't know if it was, like I said, given out at the press conference or not. But We're very concerned. We've already been, yes, it's under our look-alike drugs, if you will, because it's, but definitely is a prohibited substance in our schools. So students are being treated just like they were with drug and alcohol. They're getting the same sanction. But an ordinance from you would be hugely helpful. And I know if you pass one, we can certainly look at it, and if it's appropriate to get the school board to weigh in on it, then I think that'd be a great thing when Juneau comes along. I think we could both lobby for legislation to put it into legislation.
Mr. Honeman and I both were fortunate enough to be allowed to attend briefings for our EMTs by the municipal prosecutor, and I had a minimum amount of information prior to walking into the room, and it was shocking. It was frightening that how readily accessible this stuff is. And Chief, I know since it's not illegal, I guess the main contact your department's had was people who were impaired by it driving. We heard a couple of stories about that. What's your sense about how much we're seeing it in the community?
Well, my knowledge right now is anecdotal, and I'm trying to change that. It seems like every time I walk around the corner, I bump into somebody that's got another spice story. I can tell you that I remember it surfaced in a particularly in an arrest we tried to make a couple months ago. This one stuck in my mind. I think we used everything on this guy except bullets, and it still took. I mean, we tased him twice, we sprayed him, we used neck restraints, and finally it was just mainly a dog pile of about 10 cops that finally wrestled the guy into cuffs. I mean, he was just ballistic. It reminds me of the old, to listen to the story, it reminds you of the old angel dust stories that you used to hear in the late 70s, early 80s. So I mean, and so I hear anecdotal stuff. I can't tell you, because we haven't tracked it yet, that I'm aware of in any way where we can count numbers. We need to probably change that. I had a visit up on base with Commanding General Palumbo, the other day, and he brought it up. I guess it's a big problem on the base. The GIs are bringing the stuff back. They're emptying the housing units and searching the places and digging it up and disciplining people, and he's wondering what we're doing about it. So then I ran into you the other night, and I thought, you know, I heard that somebody, and now I know that it's Kevin Meyer, is working on a statute, but after talking to you, I got thinking, why do we need to wait for the state? So I went back and I told my guys last week, about a week and a half ago, right after, the next day after I spoke with you, right after the APAC meeting, I said, let's get everybody together who's a stakeholder in this thing that we know of. Get the prosecutor. I've heard that Jan Messick is, or I can't pronounce her name, but probably got that wrong. She's kind of spearheading it. There's some guys over fire that know a lot about it. We've got some dope experts that are schooled up on this, much more so than me. So we're going to all get together at 1:30 on Thursday, and our idea was to, first of all, get us all on the same sheet of music, make sure we all know the same thing and that we're all moving in the same direction, because I didn't know that the prosecutor was doing something, and I didn't know the fire department had experts, although it makes sense to me that they would. They're the medics. They see these people. So we want to do that. I want to look and see if there is a better way for us to measure how much of it we're seeing on something other than an anecdotal level. And frankly, we want to start looking at Meyer's language and language from some of the states that have outlawed this stuff, and see if it's working for them, if they're having trouble with that. And you know, at some point here really soon, I think we need to start looking at making it illegal strategically, whether we wait for the state to do it first or whether we jump out and do it now ourselves. I mean, I don't know that question. You guys have,
I know there are local governments who have addressed it. An old college professor of mine actually informed me that Fort Wayne, Indiana went through it this summer and outlawed it. But I have to take a look, because I mean, you know better than anybody, if it's not worded right, it's all on the wording. There are something like 100 of these synthetic cannabinoids. In the stuff we're seeing in town, they're using 6 or 7. So if you just ban those 6 or 7, they've got 93 or 94 others to go to.
yeah.
So
And what I understand is that the jurisdictions have had trouble defining it in such a way that you can't just change the recipe a little bit and get out from under it. So, but somebody might have solved that problem. And so we would like to see who's solved the problem and also find out if there's anything out there that's been tested in court yet, you know, because we don't want to copy an ordinance that went down in flames somewhere.
I asked Jennifer Messick the question about production. Because it's legal, it's cheaper just to ship it up here from the outside. We haven't seen production here, but it's my guess that once either the state or the municipality does something to ban it, we'll start seeing production here. Would you agree, or do you think we're still?
I don't know technically how difficult it is to make. For instance, I was thinking today, you outlaw, let's say there's pills that you have to have prescriptions for, like take OxyContin. So we make it illegal, but we're not seeing people making OxyContin. It must be too hard to make.
Right.
You can make methamphetamine, but I've never heard people make an OxyContin. So maybe some things are just really difficult and you need to have a lab to do. So, and I don't know enough about spice yet to know if it's the kind of thing you can cook up in a
From
kitchen.
what we've been told, people are cooking it up in their bathtubs.
Really?
That they pile the
Yeah.
plant material in a bathtub, they take it's like a pesticide yard sprayer and fill it with these chemicals and spray it on. And that's part of the problem. If what's in your package is the stuff that was on top, it might not be so bad.
Oh, I
But if
read
it's
that.
at the bottom of the pile, marinating in everything that's at the bottom of the tub, God knows what's going to happen.
Well, then my guess is that if we make it illegal, people start building it themselves.
Mr. Ray Jackson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry I was late, but anyway, I'm really pleased that my colleagues brought this to the surface, and I know the mayor had a press conference, but we weren't invited. But I think that, it's really, really serious, and it's amazing because I was at somebody's house a couple of weeks ago, just before the news story came on with Paul and Mike during their press conference, and this young man was telling me of an experience that a friend of his had. And I think that we need to deal with it right now at this level in any way we possibly can. We don't need to wait for the state. We need to do it now because it's very, very serious and very, very dangerous. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Just a couple quick follow-up comments, and I would like to make some sort of a formal committee recommendation to the rest of the body, if we could, on this resolution. Before us tomorrow night, I'm not sure, did it make the addendum, or?
I believe it did make the addendum.
It is.
There'll
I
be
read it this morning. So.
There's a resolution that basically calls interimly, and while we're pending legislation at the municipal level and/or state level and/or possibly federal level, in support of requesting that retailers, be it tobacco shops, 7-Elevens, convenience stores, or any other retailer, voluntarily cease and desist in the sale of these items. And the unfortunate part is that you can call it different product names, but the packaging has different names to the front of it. So you call it Spice K2 Salvia, and it may come out in a name that's really psychedelic, and it's incense. So it likely will be almost a retailer by retailer visit, or require a retailer by retailer visit. I have committed to doing just that, walking Anchorage, driving in and contacting places that I know have been understood to be selling these items. And first of all, asking or inquiring if I'm not recognized, or maybe bring some with me to see if they could purchase it. And then secondly, even if they can't, just simply give them my card, acknowledge, hand them a copy of the resolution, and because we're going on the premise, Mike and I are going on the premise that some of these people selling this stuff may not realize just how much of a health hazard it is, and it's a risk to our community. I mean, they're looking at it, they've likely invested some of their own money into the product, and then they're looking for profit like any other retail product would be for them, especially if it's an incense. The realistic view side of me says that there are some of these guys that know that, particularly like the black market, they know what this item is, they know how to say
They would know what it
to
is.
sell it, and they actually gave, my understanding, Jen Messick, a little lesson that if you've never used it before, you might try this packet because it's a little less potent, and once you get using it a little longer, you can use this for a bigger trip or something like that. So Jen Messick is looking directly into laws across the states and in the cities to see, and that is one of the big concerns, is that it may be struck down constitutionally for vagueness if we don't have it written specifically, but at the same time, the challenge. My only comment to passing the municipal ordinance on it ahead of the state is, You know, we ban fireworks. There is not a statewide ban on fireworks. There's a community, by community, a ban on fireworks, and I would have no problem using this. It's not an FDA-approved subject. This doesn't consider it a foodstuff. It's not a tobacco, so, you know, none of this is regulated, and I certainly would feel very comfortable in whatever shape or form.
I mean, I don't know what the peril would be, except, and I don't know what Representative Meyer has in mind, but all we could do is make it a misdemeanor. If it turns out the state makes it a felony, then fine, I guess it's a short-lived ordinance, but, you know, okay.
I think one thing we can do to assist, especially if you pass this, is to really gather the statistics. So we can say, just since we found out about this, there have been this many instances in the Anchorage School District. And I know Senator Meyer is very willing to.
Senator, I've been
He's a
misspeaking. I'm
senator
sorry.
now. Really willing to carry these pieces of legislation all the way through. So, and I think we could make a good case. And I know superintendents from around the state. I sent them a copy because they had a statewide meeting a couple weeks ago, and I couldn't go, but I sent them the PDF of the SPICE thing, and a lot of them have already said thank you very much because they were starting to see it, but they didn't have enough information that they could really use it. So I do think we'd get probably some support statewide from people.
And to follow up to that, you're speaking of assistance, and I'll just throw this out here as recommendations, perhaps something that Chief certainly. No problem. Chief Hall, please have a seat. Chief Hall from the Fire Department, for the record, didn't take this, you know, Chief. We're talking about SPICE, K2, Salvia, and one of the questions I had, Ms. Cromer and Chief and School Board, I know that the King Career Center, their media video department, had put together a anti-gang message. It was a fairly lengthy one. Would it be possible to entertain perhaps the same folks to help us put together a PSA-type message about the dangers, perhaps whether it be ahead of the message of before the ordinance gets passed and just warning people of the dangers, or I know that we could probably get with the state since they're putting in statutes maybe ahead of them too, get with the state over at their media department to put together a public safety.
We can certainly talk with them depending on what's the best approach. I think sounds like your meeting you're having Thursday with all the entities that may have an interest in putting some very specific factual information in it that I certainly don't want to get our students
Sure.
and our teacher trying to interpret statutes.
Sure. Oh, yes, yes. I'm thinking like school board members, the chief,
Right.
the superintendent, you know, someone like Senator Meyer, someone that would step up, and
Right.
fire department chief that says, you know, we've seen, you know, just a little simple message that
Right.
kind of gives people attention.
Oh, yeah, we've also in our cable channel, 14 works closely with those, so we can work with you.
Okay, well, I know there's only the two members of the committee here, but I will ask that, entertain a recommendation that we urge the body to unanimously accept and pass the resolution on Tuesday night.
Seems a little self-serving since it's our resolution, but yeah, I hope that the body will. I don't anticipate any.
I'll draft up and present that to you. Do you have any
Well,
objections?
I just one comment for the record. I'm not officially a member of the Public Safety Committee, but I'm here because it's one of my issues. But as a member of the Anchorage Assembly, I wholeheartedly support this, and I can't imagine any of our colleagues saying no.
And
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman, I'd very quickly like to thank Kathleen Plunkett. Kathleen brought this to my attention and educated me very quickly on it, and I appreciate that. That's what neighbors are for.
I did the same thing
I
with
was going
Paul.
to say, I recognize the same and can echo that sentiment, so, well, thank you. All right, and we'll go, if you don't, we'll go back to the agenda where it was listed on the school resource officers. And here's the concern that I have. I'll just throw it out here, and we're looking for some information from the schools and from the chief, very appropriate. The coming budget in 2011, as it pertains to the school resource officers, it's my understanding that the funding for the school resource officers is intended to be picked up entirely by the Anchorage School District. Ms. Como, is that how you read the preparation?
That's correct, as the mayor's budget has been proposed, yes.
Chief, is there something that was discussed on this? Was this, I guess, an agreed upon thing from both the schools, or have you had discussion or dialogue with on that?
Well, this is a matter of the administration's budget, and this year's budget process was a little different than processes I've seen in the past. I think this is something that the the mayor's office and OMB have decided they want to do for budgetary reasons. That's the mayor's budget, and I don't know what to say about that, except that it's the mayor's budget and we're going to have to make it work. I think that there is still some discussion going on. I'm not sure that it isn't going to change a little bit still. I don't know if that, what I'm saying is I'm not sure it's dried in concrete yet. And it might depend on who you ask, whether or not it's set in concrete or not. But I work well with the Anchorage School District. Carol and I get along very well. We've got Gardner, we've got a good relationship, and no matter what happens, we're going to make the SRO program work. It will be, if the school district ends up picking up 100% of the cost, you know, I think it's going to mean that we sit down and talk about how the rules of engagement are going to be, but we'll make it work.
Mr. Jackson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I have some comments, and they're the same comments that I made at the Public Safety Committee meeting last week. First off, I am totally against the school district picking up the total cost. Frankly, I don't think the school district should pick up any of the cost. Any money that the school district spends should be spent on education. That's it, that's all. You know, having public safety officers in the school is a function of this community, you know, protecting the citizens that live here, including the students. Secondly, you know, a police officer in school, if there's an issue in the rest of the community, they're out of there. And I feel real strongly about that. And I'm not going to put Superintendent Coma on the spot this afternoon and ask her what her opinion is, but that's my opinion. And as far as the mayor's budget being set in concrete, I don't agree with that, because if it was set in concrete, the charter wouldn't provide for the assembly to appropriate the funds. I hope that there is enough votes on the assembly to, at the very least, have the school district pay for half, which I still don't agree with, but I can handle half, but I certainly am totally against the school district carrying 100% of the funding for SROs. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Actually, Carol, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit.
That's all right,
I know
I
we
don't
didn't
mind.
want to, but if for some reason we don't affect a change, if the administration doesn't change their mind or shift a little bit, the assembly can't get us at least to that sort of 50-50 that we're operating under now, what's the future of the program from your perspective?
Well, I just want to be real clear. I agree with the chief that we worked very well together. He was deputy chief, actually, when the program, we got the first grant, and then Chief Monaghan signed it. We tweaked the MOU, working with Gardner when he was still with APD, working. He was the key officer assigned to the program and helped us develop it. And it's really worked very well through 3 police chiefs and through various changes in my administration. And while LV, excuse me, Mr. Gray Jackson, I really appreciate your comments and your thoughts. We have made it work this year with the half, and I feel 75% is probably more reasonable just because of the school year, because we do have the summer time when half of the SROs are working in summer schools, and in our programs, the other half, they've been deployed out into the community and so forth, which we see as a benefit to the community. But regardless of how this comes down, we are going to make this work because it is an integral part of our school's safety. And the teachers and the students and the families have really embraced the program. And I absolutely believe the reason they've embraced it is because they're absolutely quality officers that want to work with young people. I would never support this becoming a program where it's just the least senior officers or people assigned to the program that weren't really invested in working in a school. Because what we learned as the program evolved is that there are 2 different roles in the police department are not our disciplinarians. They never were supposed to be and never will be. And so there's this line that has to be drawn between their roles. And I think we've made it work very, very well. And I just know it's because of the close collaboration between my level and the chief, as well as the quality officers, and working through the different things. Gardner was hugely helpful in helping us work through a lot of those cultural shifts and understandings at the very beginning with the officers. And he and I went to almost every one of the meetings that they had the first year, really listening to them about concerns, issues they had with being in the schools and observing things that if they saw them on the street, they might step in, but at the same token realizing that we need to work through this, build relationships and so forth. So I think there's been mutuality as far as contributions. We've always provided the space, we've always provided the computers, the printers, the cell phones, and those kinds of things, which we would absolutely want to continue. So I think whatever ends up being the dollar figure will make it work, as the chief said. But this is clearly, when I first found out that the mayor intended to put into his budget 100%, the other half, in other words, continue on the half and then adding the other half, I brought up the summer issue. I brought up the fact that if there's a bomb threat across the street from Service High School, I want those SROs out of there. I want them out there assisting patrol, keeping the community safe. And if there's an SRO officer who's on the bomb squad, which there have been, then I want them doing that. And that's really, they should be under his command. We talk a lot. If there are issues come up, we talk about them and resolve them. And I just think it's so critical that the officers know who their boss is. And it should be the chief of police, not the superintendent of the Anchorage School District.
Yeah. I can tell you from experience, before I came to Alaska, I was a residential counselor at a residential high school on the campus of Ball State University in Indiana. And it was a school for gifted and talented students. And the second year I was there, we brought on staff, so to speak, I guess would be the equivalent. The university had its own police force. They were sworn officers. And there was a lot of consternation at first. Oh, we know somebody with a gun, it's going to freak the kids out. They found precisely the right individual who became the most valuable part of our little community. And it was a benefit to us as staff, it was a benefit to the kids, it was a benefit to the university. And so it can really, it can be a win-win-win-win situation. Just for clarity's sake, you mentioned a 75%. You mean?
Well, that's just a rough looking at the summer piece, but the officers who work summer schools would be 100% other than when they take leave, and which they're entitled to.
So you mean 75% paid by the district or the muni?
No, by the district.
By the district.
And this is, I don't have any numbers in front of me. I'm just saying that and that's what I discussed with the mayor and Larry Baker, his chief of staff, and Cheryl Frasca when they first presented this idea to us. And they said, well, that's certainly open for discussion. And so that's why I say that I want this program to continue. To me, it's the best example of community policing there is. In the best sense of the word, because they not only are in our high schools, they're in our middle schools and elementary schools when they can. Therefore, they build relationships with kids and families so that in the neighborhood and on the weekends, they're out and about just as people.
A police officer isn't seen as the enemy.
Yeah.
It's not us and them. He's one of us.
That's why, to me, it's been so valuable the way it's worked. Mark, the chief and I, there is an MOU, it's been in place for 7 years, it's been tweaked, and it would obviously needs to make sure it works between the two of us, but.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Ms. Como, for clarity for me, okay, everybody knows how I feel.
Right.
I feel strongly.
Right.
All right, and the program isn't going away. Okay, period. But what's how do you feel about the Assembly putting forward an effort to change the mayor's budget from 100% to 50 or say even 75%?
Well, I don't know. I want some guidance from the Assembly tomorrow night on our budget. That's what we need. This piece has to be worked through your political process. I'm going to support whatever it ends up because I want the program. I believe the board feels the same way. They see value in this program. And I think they recognize that the part of the value is because it's under the control of the Anchorage Police Department.
Right.
Rather than this trying to divide up the response. It just wouldn't work.
And
And I wouldn't want it to work like that.
As Carol said, that they kicked around the 75%, and that she was told that it was, they take that into consideration. I think they are taking it into consideration. I can't speak for OMB, but I answered a lot of questions last week about, what they do in summertime and what kind of stuff do they also do that isn't SRO related,
Right.
things like that. So I think I see signs that they are kicking around that notion, OMB, Mayor's Office.
So in other words, what you're saying is that it's a possibility that the mayor's office is going to come forward with an S version, which they're probably going to do anyway, but it's going to change that from 100% to 70%.
I don't know how the process is going to play out, whether
Well, that's the only
whether
way
the
it can
mayor
play
will
out at this point.
do it himself, or if he would be amenable to, if the assembly does it, he'll go along with it.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I'm not sure yet how that's
And
going
you
to work
can't
out.
possibly be sure. I'm just trying to get some feedback from,
Well, I think one of the other things that came out, I think, at that meeting, I wasn't there because I was out of town, or maybe Gardner can speak, there's a number of these SROs who train and are trainers and certified, like the bomb squad, for instance. They're on the bomb squad, so when the bomb squad's needed, they go. Doesn't matter what's going on at the school, it's the bomb squad. That's good, because that means they're current, that means they're doing the work that benefits the whole community. And so I think that information was presented.
I'm trying to come up with some numbers for a rough estimate of how much time, you've got specialty teams that
Right,
we're
that's what I
talking
was
about
trying to
here,
get.
instructors, specialty teams.
Hostage negotiation.
You have, they handle calls all the time, like Ms. Jackson was saying. I mean, for Senator Stevens' funeral, we pulled them all out of school
Right.
except for two. We needed to work on a school violence problem that day in the schools, otherwise they were out directing traffic. And that's not unusual, if they have an emergency, they support the patrol units, and that's important. Because when we put this program together, we all sat down, took a look at it, we understood that we had to have quality officers. And that's one of the things that I'm afraid of if the school district assumes 100% here and we assume more control, that, our ability to get some of the quality officers out of the department will be impacted. And that would be not a good thing for that program. You need people in there, use good judgment, aren't rigid, understand where they're at, want to work with kids and all that. That's critical. The other thing, we want them handling calls out there with the officers because we need to support within the police department for that program to continue. And the police department, the line officers have to see value in that program, and right now they do, because these officers, when we designed it, were police officers. They handle the calls at the school and around the school and assist these officers in emergency. And Paul can attest to that's critical. And when we designed this, we were hoping they would become teams, be part of a team within the administration of the schools they're at, and that's happened, I can tell you. That's happened because we have a problem now with the people when they have an emergency, they're trying to call the SRO on their cell phone rather than calling 911 when they're not there because they're so comfortable, with that officer. So in the summertime, I think last summer we had 7 officers. At summer school, it's 28 days. The other 9 were out doing various things around the community. They work 4-10, so they're not at least one day they're not there, and that doesn't count leave and things like that. My best guess, when you factor in everything, we're probably below 70%. I don't know the exact number. I'll try to come up with some type of rough estimate, but my best guess is we're probably getting less than 70% usage.
I think the other thing I've heard from a number of officers that I have occasion to talk to periodically is the patrol officers were initially kind of skeptical about this because of experience they had in the past with another, whatever it was called.
There was a program before.
Yeah, another previous program. But what they found now, at least the input I get back, is that the patrol then can do their job. The school resource officers are the ones doing the follow-up to cases that happen. Even if patrol gets involved at the beginning, they can turn it over to SRO to follow up if it's a juvenile issue in the community. And before, you might get 4 or 5 different people looking at the same issue, and the follow-on, it took much longer and it wasn't as successful. I know the officers work very closely with the Crimes Against Children's unit, both for the young kids and then the sexual assault unit when it's a high school young person that's involved in that. And that's huge for, again, quick follow-on, good follow-up. So I think it's enhanced, frankly, the investigations and when there are crimes committed.
Go along with Ms. Jackson's contention there. We do not, and correct me if I'm wrong here, boss, but I'm saying we now right here. We do not want to become the police. You
Right.
have a police department
Right.
within the school district. You know, having that separation is a good thing,
Yeah.
especially when you're dealing with very difficult problems. You know, some high-profile problems. It's good that we handle the civil end within the district and the police department handles the
Right.
criminal end, and we're not mixing those two because at the end, our job is education and the police department's safety and, you know, so.
Well, I've been holding comments here now, so I'm just going to, again, I would like to entertain a recommendation to the Assembly as a body for the resolution as it pertains to guidance to the school district and the budget program. And I'm going to preface my recommendation suggestion, and I know there's 2/3 of us here, so I feel comfortable as a quorum, but Ms. Gray Jackson being a member of the body, I feel comfortable with her comments as well and hopefully support. I feel largely in line with Ms. Gray Jackson. That is, I don't believe the school district should have to pick up a penny of these police officers' positions because, as Ms. Captain Cobb reported, is basically they do not have a school police. They don't desire school police, nor do I believe we're at that point where we should even be entertaining that. I know there's some larger cities that have a transit police. They have a housing police. We're not there. And one police department with one chief and a set strategy and chain of command is adequate, I believe. For many reasons, previously I was a day shift patrol commander, and I would lose, in a literal sense, up to 10 out of 22 to 24 officers on a shift. I would lose 10 of those officers to school problems before the school district school resource program. I was the day shift commander just before the SROs came on, and we would lose those officers to the schools for school problems. And so I know, not just anecdotally, I know for a fact I lost those officers. I know them. Frankly, the frustrations we felt, if it weren't McLaughlin, which is part of the school system there, they had Whaley Center, they had SAVE, and then just all the other general high schools, elementaries, and middle schools at the time. So I don't believe that we should have the school district pay for the police officers. However, I think last year, and I don't know how it got there, this has been my first budget year, 50% of the cost. The irony for me, being in person for the first time on the budget, and I share with you guys my frustration is, I don't know how we can reconcile when it comes out of the left pocket, it goes to the school district, it comes out of the right pocket, it goes to general government towards the police budget. It comes out of our same pocket. We're paying to the general tax pay out of our pocket, if you see what I'm saying, to follow that logic. So my concerns for the direction that we're going to be giving to the school district, particularly the school board and the district as they prepare for their budget, is we need to recommend, my suggestion is we recommend to the body in the area of public safety for the school resource officers what we believe would be a fair, I guess, direction, particularly when it pertains to monies, because I know that at least one member is asking for, I believe, flat funding, and that's how the proposal was. And so if we're looking at 50%, I think we ought to be able to make sure that the school district is allowed to increase, and if it's 100%, they certainly have to increase, because otherwise they have to cut a program or absorb a loss somewhere. So my recommendation is that we make a recommendation. We come up with a recommendation.
So you're saying if we were to shift the other 50% of the burden onto the school district
Or
to pay
whatever
for this, or whatever portion, that they'd be allowed to increase their budget proportionally
That's
to
correct.
pay for it?
That's correct.
Their taxes.
Their taxes.
Taxes, yeah.
Ability to tax higher to gain, and I know that there's at least a recommendation, as we've seen in that version as well.
Yes, version is 1.6%.
Right.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. I've got the documents in front of me,
Thank you.
okay? And since it's only 3 of us, and we only have 20 more minutes to go with this public safety committee meeting, maybe we could talk, because it'll be legal,
Okay.
after the meeting, what we're gonna do with this.
Okay.
What amendments, and I have some suggestions.
Okay, very good.
Okay, thank you.
So bear in mind, we will make, this public safety committee will make a recommendation more to the full body as it pertains to the SROs and the school district budget guidance resolution that it comes out.
And if we're going to make that recommendation, shouldn't we make it before this meeting ends? I mean,
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Okay.
As far as the recommendation is
Yes.
concerned, I have some other stuff to talk about.
Do you have any thoughts on it since you've been on the budget? building before?
I think, well, no, I think that we're on the right track with that. What I would suggest is, though, rather than, and it doesn't sound like that's what you're after, I wouldn't say we recommend that the muni pay half, the district pay half, or whatever. You know, I wouldn't recommend a proportional split. I would say that we recognize the benefit to the wider community of the SRO program. Therefore, the muni should foot some part of the bill, or I would say to the greatest degree possible. But if not, then the district should be allowed to increase its tax collections proportionally to pay for it, so that the burden doesn't then impact classroom services, for lack of a better term.
Well, I'm going to recommend that we pay 100%, but to the degree that we may get support or not from our members, I'd be willing to do a status quo 50%, no less. I don't want. Chief?
Just to be clear, when people are talking about whatever percentage, 50%, 75, 100, we're only talking salaries and benefits.
Yes, that's correct.
Right.
All right,
Because
just
I
want to make that
recognize
clear.
the police car-
The police department is still going to buy the
Right,
cars,
right,
fuel them
right.
up, you know.
Right.
We know that,
Right,
yeah.
right.
Yeah,
No, but that's a good point, because
right.
those are significant costs.
Well,
Right,
and
it's the point that
the
was brought up
space,
at
the office, where they are, the computers, I mean, we're both paying that. And
Yeah.
so this is really important, I think, that this is just salaries.
So
and
we
benefits.
should make that distinction in the recommendation, that just
Well,
salaries.
sorry, that's what's in the budget. I mean,
I just wanted to make it
Yeah.
clear so that we don't
Right.
say it wrong
Right.
and then somebody then gets saddled with a bigger
Right.
piece out there than
But
what
people
we.
get the wrong, yeah, no, you're absolutely
That's great,
right.
Jack.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And yeah, at the last Public Safety Committee meeting, that point was stressed, and I remembered it. Yeah, that it's just salaries and
Right.
Just
benefits,
salaries, but-
and everything else is already taken care of.
Sure, we still hire the officers, equip them, train them, clothe them.
Right.
You know,
Just for
and the school district still does you know, they buy the furniture and build the offices and stuff like that, so there's a lot of in-kind.
Clarify, Ms. Jackson, that was a Budget and Finance Committee, correct? The one from last week?
Whatever. yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, just want to make sure we're
Yeah.
recording. Okay, so I think we'll have a recommendation then, hopefully shortly before the meeting ends, or after, or should we go ahead and tackle it before we go? Then I'd entertain a recommendation that the Public Safety Committee recommends to the body no more than a 50% share borne by the school district, and that they be allowed to generate tax revenue to sufficient numbers to cover their costs.
I would, Mr. Chairman, I would move the 50% number, but say, however, should they be required to pick up more than that, then we allow them to increase their tax collections to compensate.
I just have a question, Mr. Chairman. The way it was last year, weren't you able to collect enough taxes to cover that 50% cost? last
They
year?
allowed us to increase our side of the tax cap.
Right.
To $1.2 million plus, I think it was 6,000 more for bus passes.
Right.
And so that was basically, yes, so it went over there, and then the whole amount went over to the city, but it was on our side of the tax calculation, and we were flat funded as far as any local property tax. Now, this S version, or I don't know, they're working on another one, the fact that the mayor has recommended 1.6% increase in municipal taxes for his budget, there's apparently discussion that the same be allowed on our side, and if that's true, that's about 3.6 million or something, which would definitely include, I mean, it would allow
cover you.
for this extra, the other half, and a little bit more that we can use, plus half the taxes that aren't collected. There's still going to be, there would still be, if that passed, enough funds to do a little bit on our side, which is different than this current year's budget.
But not very much.
Not very much, but at least it would cover the full cost, plus half of the taxes that aren't collected, and then a little bit more.
Then it would seem it might be simpler simply to express, Mr. Chairman, our support for the S version of the resolution.
We can't do that, Mr. Chairman. First off, the S version, okay, which I have in front of me,
Right, I do
is
too.
only allowing 0.6.
Right, but Ms. Johnston, I talked to her this morning,
Okay.
and she said they're working on an S1 version, so I don't know what that even is
Oh,
gonna
isn't
look like.
that special? Okay.
Well, I have no idea, all I
Yeah,
know is
well,
I
I appreciate you mentioning that because Mr. Starr was adamant at our Budget and Finance Committee meeting. You know, and as you may or may not know, Assemblymember Flynn has an amendment to
Right.
change it to 1.6.
Right, and I think that's where that came into the discussion
Right.
someplace, and I
You know,
have no idea where.
I stick with my
Thank you.
recommendation that we, as a Public Safety Committee, recommend to the body, that for purposes of discussion in the resolution, to 50% cost, 50% of the SRO.
All right. That's fine with me.
Is that an objection on that?
Right, and since, thank you, Ms. Como, for letting us know that Ms. Johnson has may change the document.
Well,
Because if that,
it's just evolving, in my.
no, I know, but I want to see the document and what the real numbers are.
We're both on the Budget and Finance Committee, and that's first I heard.
You know,
Thank you. Okay.
Interesting
You
time.
guys all work differently than
Yes,
our
we
board.
do. Rather quickly, Chief, I know
we try
that
hard to work together.
we've moved, had a meeting recently on the bicycle community in Title IX. Do you real quick like address that?
Yes. We at the Anchorage Anchorage Police Department redid the wording of the bicycle portion of the Title IX traffic ordinance after we talked with a bicycle instructor specialist that has drafted laws and does court testimony and accident reconstruction and stuff. It's somebody the bike community likes and have used here. He's from Austin, Texas. So we kind of adopted his philosophy and redrafted those portions of the ordinance. The current draft revision had been upsetting to the bicycle community. I thought we had gone a little too far as a police department on it, but I was still concerned, though, that we're going to have clear right-of-way rules. Officers have to investigate. They have to be able to come up with a finding. The cyclists have to obey some laws. They got to keep themselves safe. So, you know, I got a foot in both camps. So I was trying to broker this peace deal. Paul got in on it here the other night. So we brought in 4 hand-picked people from the bike community, laid out our draft ordinance to them, and said, now what do you guys think? So we started a little debate there. I'm trying to get buy-in from them. We did some wordsmithing the other night. I think we got it where everybody's in agreement. I still have to update the drafts. I'm going to send it back out to everybody, let everybody look at it one more time. And I think, in a nutshell, I think pretty soon we'll be coming to you, and the Assembly will be able to see the whole package. And I think you won't, cautiously optimistic, you won't have to listen to 100 angry cyclists stand up and tell you the same thing over and over. I think we'll have 3 people to hug and say, yeah, it's a good deal, just do it. And
Handful of people who might be.
So when is it coming before the Assembly? Because I dealt with Sean a little bit on one of my issues, constituent issues, and it's the predator towing part. And so I'm looking forward to seeing the new document come before us. So when do you anticipate?
well, I'm going to try. Gosh, I thought I was going to have the language out days ago. I'd like to think we can have it back to the Department of Law in the next week to 10 days. And I think they're just waiting on this, and then they'll bring the whole Title IX forward.
Right.
This is just a small piece.
So
inside.
before the end of the year?
Yeah, oh yeah. I'm going to try and get it done this month.
Chief, do you know if that's going to include any increase in fines or fees on that recommendation?
Well, now, the city is going to be submitting this omnibus fines and fees, and that probably is going to affect some traffic stuff. I don't remember now, I'm going back, let me think. We did so much of this,
Yes.
and,
If you need to research it and get us back, I just was curious.
well, Dean's working on it, and I think there may be revisions to Title 8, Title 9 anyway, just because it's been a while. But I don't think you're going to see that in the Title 9 debate. I think the Title IX ordinance will just say, this is what the laws are now, and then the fees and fines attached will come in the omnibus fees and fines ordinance. I think that's how it's coming forward.
Which is for introduction on Tuesday.
Yeah, I think it's going to come first.
Well, yeah.
And I was asked about raising the title, and we had some emails going back and forth between us and OMB. But the bottom line is statutes say you can only raise them to a certain level. It can only be raised, it applies, there's 2 or 3 tests of how you set the fees. For laws, you can't always just come in and make them whatever you want. So it really went back to legal, and legal is going to go through the title and figure out what could be raised, and if so, how much, and still be within statute. So Dean's got the answer to that question. I just don't have it.
Thanks, Chief. All right, so we're in the fire department. Chief, all sorry for you kind of at the last, but I think you kind of picked up on where we were at. We had on here Station 6 update, and I will report to you guys in the body end as well. Friday, I had to use the facilities at one of your facilities and Station 3, and I actually talked to quite a bit of the crew, a couple of battalion chiefs, and they shared with me that the building at Station 3 rebuild, it's not on here, but there are some concerns that they, as a whole, as a station house, and the operators out of that actually are very happy with the potential new spot that's being maybe proposed. So just so you know, the Station 3 rebuild, where it is currently located at, was proposed, may be changing. I understand has proposals in for as changes. There have been some concerns, I know, raised by, ironically, someone from Northeast Community Council, but then I believe Representative Grunberg, who secured some funding too. So we may have some hurdles to get through, but so far, the operator's provision, just so you know, I'm happy to report, is unanimous that they support the alternate location as opposed to rebuilding on the site for a multitude of reasons. And as I explained to them, what I'm looking for was input and feedback. I said very little, they said all the words, and literally as a station house, they did pretty good with it. And if you find it hard to believe something.
No, I'm just
Yeah.
happy.
Yes, I am too. Station 6.
Station 6, y'all will see that tomorrow night. It's on the agenda. The way we got there is a long story, and I'll tell you that if you'd like to hear it. But what it comes down to is Blaze Burkhart and Croft are the architects. They were hired to do the architect for Station 3, Airport Heights. A lot of things happened that we have decided that, okay, we might move Station 3. So we had this architect design and drawing and had money towards it. So rather than lose that money, well, let's ask him to design Station 6, which he has been. And as you all know, he's met with the community councils 3 times. He's met with the firefighters 3 times. He's still working with them. However, what y'all have to approve is changing the wording from Station 3, Blaze Burkhart and Company, to design Station 3, to have it say to design Station 6.
It is your recommendation, Chief, that we actually approve that?
Please, yes, very much so. One of the best people I've ever worked with, and I've worked with a whole bunch of them, mind you, but I've worked with 2 different architect companies. And one guy comes in and says, before my administration, they said, look, we don't like this. This is what somebody gave us, draw us something new. And then I come in, and 3 weeks later, he comes in, and he hasn't changed the drawing at all. He said, well, I really wasn't sure what you wanted. This is an architect company. Wasn't really sure what you wanted. So we said, okay, we want this, 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 and this. Go do it. He comes back in about a month later, hasn't changed a darn thing. And I was just pretty livid. Compare that to Blaze, who I've never met before. I don't know the man. I just met him doing this. He comes in and says, here's what we got, here's where we're going, here's where your estimates are, here's what it's going to cost, and here's where we're on the budget. And I mean, it was all lined out. And then when we asked him, okay, this is a building that's built on a hill at Station 3 because of this earth, they're going to move it to a flat. Can you redesign it? Not a problem, we'll work on it. And he's been dealing with the community council.
He's done a really good job with what is sometimes a challenging community council. He's handled it excellently.
And somebody said to me that you can't get them agree on the sunset.
I'd have to agree with that comment.
You were at the last
Yes,
conference.
I was. Chief, and in fairness, they have some very involved people who are very interested.
Passionate.
Strong passions about making sure that the Station 6 is built to their specifications and their requirements and their requests.
So what's the issue with the land?
Land on Station 3 is owned by the fire department?
No.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. The land that we look for is right across from ADN. I didn't know who owned it. I do know now. It's on San Geronimo or North. It's right across the street from ADN.
It's Northway Drive.
Improves our response time to 6, gives us northwest, southeast directions. We had it just appraised. We had called an independent appraiser. And matter of fact, I have a meeting today at 2:30 to talk with George. 1.25 million is what they want. Now, just to reiterate, when the previous fire administration wanted to build a fire station, they didn't go to M&O and say, here's what we want, here's what we need. They just said, they went to the legislator and got some money. They didn't consider LEED, L-E-E-D, construction. They didn't consider where they were gonna build it. Like, for instance, it's gonna take $250,000 to knock down Station 3 where it sits. Then I have to remodel, you all remember, I talked about remodeling the training center, which was gonna be $100,000
Right.
for 18 months.
Right.
So now I can leave the folks there, let them respond out of there, build a new station. When they're gone, I can use that to augment my shop with my ambulances. I don't know, y'all been here
Which
long?
makes sense, but let me ask you a question about this for a second.
Sure.
So the seller wants 1.25.
That's what it appraised at.
Okay, because you confused me there.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so the appraisal is 1.25, and how
Yes.
much does the seller want? What's
I
the
have
seller
no
want?
idea yet. I'm going
Okay.
to talk with Bill Maynard today and George to figure out the city owns some land, and this, I don't want to make it too, there's 4 building projects that are out there. Station 5, which is Spinard, Station 3, which is Airport Heights, Station 6 is Huffman, and Station 9 is Huffman, 6 is DeBar, Patterson and DeBar. I would like to take all the money I have, put it in a pot, and say, let's go build these fire stations and use some prototypes. Y'all remember me telling you that. Apparently, you can't do it as easy as you'd like. No, you've got.
The legislators don't like that.
That's correct. So we're meeting with legislators to try to talk to them. Station 9, Huffman, for example, I'm probably telling y'all more you need to know. Station 9, they went to the legislator and said, we need $5 million to remodel Station 9. Station 9 is Huffman. Think about it if you've ever been out there. There's nowhere to go. You can't go out because you got McDonald's on the east and you've got a street and a shopping center on the west, Huffman right out in front of you. And in the back, it's all residential. I mean, there's houses. There's no way to remodel that $5 million worth. I'd like to move that station southeast to improve our response times, then sell that piece of property. I'd like to tie it in with the Station 3 property, but it's way too complicated in getting things done. So I'm gonna go talk with George today to figure out how we can come up with enough money to buy the land and build it. I have 5.4 million. You have to take out the 2% for administrative costs and the 1% for art. So that's where we're at.
There's a liquor store wants us to open up out there, Chief.
Across the street, I was there for that one.
Okay, I know we're
Chairman?
in interest time, yes.
A quick question. With Station 3, it will become complicated because of who owns the land. And I don't think I'm telling you anything you don't already know.
Well, I know the name now.
Yeah. The increasing response time to the east seems counterintuitive because DeBar is right in, right out at Northway and DeBar. If you can show that empirically, that'll help a lot.
I can do that. I have maps and I can very easily, especially Truck 3, now does not get to the northeast where the assisted living homes,
Uh-huh.
back in the back up by Centennial. We can definitely show that.
Okay.
We can show you categorically that this should have been considered prior to decide. And the story was, I think I sent you the emails.
You did.
Okay.
You did. And the storm drain and
Yep.
all of that stuff, I get that, I understand that.
The last thing, Chief, and I know we're right at time frame. I know Mr. Skoller's, I don't know if you have anything to add, but just
Yeah, the results of the energy conservation event that went, they're getting ready to announce it, and it's pretty close to what they experienced last year in terms of electrical power. The only difference this year is there was a survey, and it measures level of participation and the level of information, who was informed or how good the word got out. So that's coming up a little bit later on today.
Today,
I
my
got
wife's
one
been
of those.
bugging me about that since.
I got the survey.
Oh, you did?
I was shocked that they didn't want to know who I was voting for. I was like, you're exactly who I got.
Chief, if you don't mind, for the next meeting, I'd really like to get a clear understanding of Station 7, or Medic 7, Station 7, either A, the new rig, and B, the personnel for Station Medic 7.
I can give you the Reader's Digest right now.
Yes, sir.
What I've been told is that first quarter budget revision is when they'll look to do that.
Totally.
But Medic 7 in service, and the rig is being ordered. The
Yes,
apparatus,
Yes.
I had my shop go ahead and order.
That's Santa Rig, right?
Yes, sir.
That was bonded.
Yeah.
Very quickly on Station 6, the last meeting I went to, the question was which side of the building to put the dormitories, for lack of a better term.
Mhm.
Have they resolved that?
They did.
Next to the road, away from the road?
Away from the road, and they appeased the users, the providers, and I think they even appeased some of the passionate ones. Or maybe it's up at the
I
front.
thought it's in the front. Yeah, I thought they changed it again, but they were looking into, well,
You're right.
for
They've
the
got that
tax use
down.
office,
Yep.
they've got a double wall that helps. But the upstairs, they're looking at, not only, they have some new technology that's available that are relatively low cost, but they're also looking at some windows. They talked about
Yes,
some
double
sound
pane,
double-
triple pane windows, and they went to a school that he just built. I want to say Rabbit Creek, but I don't know the name of the school, but they were really worried about noise at the school, and he took firefighters and members of the community council to the school so they could see it. But everybody's happy with it.
I understand the footprint was better with that part of the building closer to the road.
Yes, I believe you're correct. yes.
So, but the people were worried about the noise.
Yeah, and he assuaged those fears. I believe.
He's done a great job. The meeting that I went to, there were some passions, and he did a terrific job with those folks.
It's now 1:02, and I think we started about 12:01, 12:02, so I'm going to call this meeting to adjourn unless there's any other comments, questions, concerns.
Just apologize for being late. So.
Chief, is there, I send emails directly to you, is there someone else?
No,
that
it should be me.
Okay, because I know I send some to you and some to Vicki Bloom, so I wasn't sure if you had an assistant that you wanted me to also send.
Rhonda Robison,
Okay,
Robison.
okay.
And Chief, if you can give me just a minute, there's an issue in Birchwood, Beach Lake, dog busher trails. I forgot that. We may have forwarded some to them. I'm not sure. So, meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.